escorts, call girls, night walkers, etc. What was the weirdest, craziest, funniest experience in your time in that profession? The father of a friend works as a doctor for a government disease control place in Germany. He is mainly dealing with prostitutes and tells some funny stories. Many of the women coming to see him don't give their real name and don't have to. They're categorized just after the name they give and their birthday. One woman once came into the office and just said my birthday changed. Turns out she was never using her own birthday. She always used the birthday of her current boyfriend. Another time he asked me to go to a site on the internet where most of the women in his care advertise. Pointed a finger at a blonde she's got chlamydia. Ha 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 ha. Also told me about a woman who told him that a man wanted her to save all the filled condoms of a whole week of work and buy them of her for $500 a day. That's where she drew the line, and even though it was easy extra money, she couldn't do it. Not a call girl per se. I haven't had sex with clients, but I have done video requests for money. I'm exclusive with my boyfriend. Love him a ton and we are both comfortable doing it. A guy requested my boyfriend dress in a suit. I suck my boyfriend to nearly completion. Then my boyfriend had to jack off into his own hand and display his cum to the camera. The guy gave us a list of talking points about his shoes to be discussed throughout the session. A guy requested I chug a can of soda then burp loudly. I expected it to be nearly impossible to chug a can of soda. I'm super sensitive to carbonated beverages and find them difficult to drink, but for some reason it was pretty easy to do. A guy requested I, sort of, hold my boyfriend in different positions. A guy requested I tie my boyfriend to a chair and suck him off. While working at a rub and tug place in Mick, I had a guy in his 50s come in who only wanted me to pinch his nipples and rub my feet on his dick until ejaculation. I'm an athlete and do not have fetish quality feet. I told this to him and he said the dirtier, the better. He then had me tell him about fucking other guys while he made disparaging remarks about himself, like, "You're so pretty you'd never do that with an old guy like me." In the middle of me recounting some of my sexploits, a certain type of lady is open to this work. He looks me seriously in my face and goes, "You know, you don't have to lie in your stories for me." I laughed so hard. I still don't think that he believed that I was being honest. But he came anyway. He was a super nice guy. I had a friend, a girl I fucked for a season, that was a dancer at one of those peep show private booths. She said the most she ever got was $1,000. And then she went on to describe sounding and having to watch a guy do that while masturbating. Both of them. I know that's shitty syntax. Close bracket. Those of you that know what sounding is just cringed. Those that don't, stay innocent. No throwaway cause who cares. I was a webcam model for some time and had seen and talked to strange people. I once saw a guy suck his own cock. That was interesting. Had a request for my female counterpart to fuck me with the toe end of a high heel. Many fisting requests. Lots of men who wanted us to degrade their tiny penis. A guy once gave us very thorough instructions on how to make me squirt. 'Twas very fun. It did work. We also had a very nice female regular who was into hardcore BDSM. She was our favorite because that was also our specialty. I have a bit of a different side of a story that had to be weird from the prostitute John's perspective. About 20 years ago I had a police scanner. Playing around with it I discovered a certain range of frequencies that picked up cell phones. Most conversations I would hear were very generic and boring. Sometimes a drug deal being made and an occasional argument would be entertaining. Mostly boring stuff. Once I heard a conversation between a prostitute and her female pimp. The prostitute complained that she was disgusted by the old guy she just did. He reminded her of her grandpa. Anyway, the pimp gives her the hotel and room number of the next client. I called the hotel and asked for the guy's room. I said something like, "Hey, when the hooker gets there ask her how grandpa is doing." Double quote. I kept scanning for a follow-up call but never heard anything. I used to work nights in reception at an escort agency that had about 50% of the escort adverts, Asian line. Indian, BBW, you name it, in my city. My job was to pick up the phone and offer quotes match the right girl for the right fantasy. Not all liked doing certain things. So one night I get this guy that was looking for a girl that could wear PVC clothing while using a strap-on on him. That wasn't an all-out request. It had happened before. But he also wanted her to sprinkle talcum powder all over him while doing that and bark while they were watching dog porn. One of the girls came back to the office one night and told us that her client had gone to the restroom at the start of her booking and came back out with a toilet brush up his butt. He then proceeded to wanting to have sex with her doggy style. That was an interesting job. Male escort for about 3 years. The worst would be having an out call and having to fuck a guy in front of his girlfriend. He loved it. She just glared at me the whole time. I felt really bad about it. I'll always remember the way she sat, staring at me while I had my way with her husband in their bedroom. So sorry. But he paid for it. I just feel bad about it. That was about 10 years ago. In Sydney. Sorry Mrs. Client. I probably had about 200 jobs during that time. That was the worst for unspoken personal conflict. Not me but a friend. A regular client took her and a bunch of other girls to an apartment. The apartment was empty with the exception of a shitload of balloons on the floor. The girls stripped down to just thongs and had to pop balloons by bouncing on them. Client just stood in the corner and fapped. So, throw away because I just started escorting and don't want it linked to my normal life. A guy I last saw a month ago would quote movies while fucking. He was also huge. Both his dick and his weight. We would be fucking and he'd say things like I am the danger. Chaos isn't a pit. It's a ladder. I'd have to press my head into the pillow not to die laughing. Once for the entire hour he just had me repeat "you're a big guy," to which he'd reply "for you." Which he told me is from The Dark Knight Rises. I kind of miss him. Regular. Paid well and fucking hilarious. Lol, okay, I have the best story. I'm a male escort BTW. So this guy wanted to meet me but he did not want to actually meet me, he wanted to watch me and a female friend enjoy dinner from far away. The only unusual stipulation was that he wanted my female friend's underwear to be exposed. After dinner all he said he wanted was the pair of woman's underwear. That's it. So naturally I involved my sister because I knew she'd be down with making extra money and she was somewhat aware that I had sugar daddies but did not know that I was sexually active with these people. He claimed he was going to give us $50 for doing this and he had no idea she was my sister. Then he decided he wanted my sister's phone number so he could decide if he could trust her with the task. Jump to a few hours later where we were outside taking photographs in the rain of my sister wearing a bra with leopard print pants and her underwear exposed. He wanted to see how wild and crazy she could get. This is when I realized things were getting out of hand. Never did meet with him. Was probably playing us. Oh, and that time I met with a client in public and rode back in his car with him to his hosting location, which turned out to be a closed dental office that he is responsible for cleaning overnight. All I'm gonna say about that night is I did receive head in a dental chair. I had this scrawny 18-year-old offer to pay me $5 whole to stick his entire hand up my pussy. Without a glove or even washing. In the dancing booth. I tried not to laugh and kept declining until it was clear he wasn't interested in a lap dance at all. So I left and went to the bouncer. The kid followed me to the bouncer protesting. Insisting that I wasn't understanding his offer correctly. I told the bouncer the kid was trying to buy extras and the bouncer told him to delete it. Then the kid argues with the bouncer and says no. You don't understand. I'm offering her $5. He got thrown out still convinced there was a misunderstanding. Transgender escort here. One day a crossdresser messaged my Facebook account. I tried to respond politely at first but he's asking too many very personal information that I reluctantly answered with false information mostly. So I told him to cut the chat and asked him what he really want from me. He said he wanted a makeover from me. Saying that he also wants to feel what it's like being a streetwalker. Though I no longer hang out on the street ever since the era of smartphone. I told him to meet me at the street because I only give my address to a trusted client. So we meet up at night around 9 PM in a coffee shop at the side of the road. This guy have a real long hair, but seems to be lacking of treatment. He has a scar on his cheek and I think he's quite an annoying person. He asked the same freaking question from my inbox all over again with additional detail. And he also said not only wanted to be a transvestite, but wanted to try a lesbian fantasy with me. To then I directly asked how much he's gonna pay. He said he mentioned the amount which is below my standard. I probably would still accept it if he's not been such a bugger. But I had enough of him and wanted to give a payback for all the wasted time. I said that I can provide all of that but I need a day preparation and get paid up front and then meet me at the same place the next day. To then he naively agreed. We exchanged phone numbers. After that I go home and switched my SIM card and blocked his Facebook from my friend list. And swear to myself to never talk to a person like that again. I'm a former webcam model. One of the weirdest experiences was one guy who told me he was a bully right off the bat and wanted to do a RP. I apparently shoved him into a whale tank because he pinched my butt and I didn't like it. Then the whale ate him and a bunch of school kids who were watching were happy because again, he was a bully. There was more to it and I started to run out of things to say. But he kept tipping me throughout the conversation. I'm a sex worker who practices massage now. But way back in undergrad, I was an escort for about 2 weeks. During those 2 weeks, I received a call from a man who wanted an out call to his home in my hometown, which was about an hour away from where I lived at the time. I didn't think much of it. I had no information about him other than his first name and looking back, I don't even believe I had that much. I arrived to a typical middle class home. I'm young. I am hot. I am dressed to kill. I opened the door to find the ultra nerdy and very Republican class president from my high school. He graduated 3 years in front of me and I would have easily voted him least likely to call a hooker. The sex was insanely erotic, amazing and fulfilling. He had one of the biggest cocks I'd ever seen. I never, not in 1 million years, expected him to call me or be so good in bed. If he were not married, I'd call him up and hit it again. Sigh. I want to be young again. Gay guy here who hooks up at least twice a month. I once had a guy that liked me to bite his nipples so hard the skin would bleed like a carpet burn. His reaction was pretty good but the amount of suction he wanted was hurting the inside of my mouth, along with a metallic taste in my mouth. He was definitely not anemic. I left him with bruised nipples for a week. He kept sending me pictures of the nipples. This was a long time ago and sadly I have a new phone or I'd gladly share. He didn't like the bruised nips afterwards but he loved it while it was happening. Yeah. I'm way late to the party. I work as an escort now. But my weirdest one, the weirdest funny one anyway, there have been a lot of crazy that wasn't funny at all, happened while I was homeless and not really an escort. I had also sprained my foot a few nights previously and had it in one of those boot things so I was limping pretty hard. I meet a dude randomly at the Metrolink station who wants me to come back to his house and give me some cash and some pills for a blowjob. That's what I was into at that time in my life so I agreed. I limped back to this dude's house, which was really his mom's house, and he took me in the basement. Well, I start giving him head and it's going okay. But I was pretty strung out on heroin at the time and hadn't had any that day and was feeling kind of sick. I was planning to use the money he paid me to get some after I was done. But as I am sucking his dick, I start getting more and more nauseous and gagging a little. And then I realize I'm going to puke. So I try to tap him to warn him and to get his dick out of his mouth. But he just jams it down my throat further. And I gag and vomit on his dick. And I jerk backwards and say sorry, I'm done, and grab my shit and try to scramble out as fast as I can with a limpy fucked up foot. But I didn't need to bother, because when I looked back at him, he was still standing there, with his eyes closed, and holding his dick covered in my puke, finishing himself off. The funniest moment that had always stuck with me was with this older client I had. He was a regular for me. Somewhere in his late 60s. All he ever wanted to do was perform oral sex on me. Cool. Right. And then one afternoon he described a specific lady part of mine by saying it's like a little turtle. I laughed for a week. Anytime someone talks about eating turtles, I die a little inside. Not an escort. Cool guy. Night walker. Etc. But definitely a slut. One time I met up with this guy at his place and things were finally underway. I was on my knees giving him a BJ when suddenly a second guy comes downstairs half naked. The guy A put on the cheesiest most awful surprise act ever. And he was like, OMG. Bro. I didn't know you were here. Guy B was not even trying to fake it. He just wanted in on the activities. As I do with all terrible acting. Please see Megan Fox and TMNT. I immediately burst into laughter and walked out the room, after collecting my slut tools. I work at a lingerie modeling shop. Customers come in for a show and can masturbate during. But no sex. I had a regular customer that would come in exclusively so I could apply red hot coals to his penis. He'd been burning himself to get off since he was about 12. He started out using cigarette butts. Tried a bunch of other things. But has since moved to a votive candle wooden dowel system. Was a really cool guy. Actually. I'm sure this will be buried. I just started caning this month. Feet fetish guys are weird. They jump in your room, demand to see your feet, then leave half the time before I even get my feet up. Lol, it's like you're hanging out talking to your friends and some random dude runs in your room yelling show me your feet, then runs away. Also had someone private message me asking if I was interested in peeing in a cup and drinking it on camera for him. He's been searching for someone for it but no takers. No takers here either.